Good evening. Well, summer recess may be approaching rapidly, but there's no shortage of stories. You could have knocked me down with a feather mid-morning when we learnt that the Department of Work and Pensions for the first time had published some figures we'd never seen before, telling us that 1.3 migrants are on universal credit at a cost of £12 billion a year to the taxpayer. Wow, I thought, that's our big debate tonight on GBNews. But since then, something even bigger has broken. It turns out that in 2023, an officer of the British forces mistakenly put out a whole bunch of data about Afghans that potentially could have fallen into the hands of the Taliban and endangered their lives. And in so doing, we finished up offering asylum to about 25,000 of them. About 7,000 have accepted, some have come, some are on their way. It's all come at a cost of £7 billion. But here's the extraordinary thing, and this is unprecedented. The government had a super injunction on the media not to cover this story at all until it broke at midday today. Here was Defence Secretary John Healey in the House of Commons earlier on today.
Mr. Speaker, this serious data incident should never have happened. It may have occurred 3 years ago under the previous government, but to all those whose information was compromised, I offer a sincere apology today on behalf of the British government.
Now, it's quite possible that some people whose data was compromised may well have had their lives threatened by the Taliban. But perhaps from our perspective, what should alarm us is some of those on that list were convicted sex offenders who have now made their way into this country under that scheme. This story is one of incompetence. This story is one of cover-up. And this story is one that does actually threaten the safety of many people on British streets. It is a grubby, grossy story. I'm joined in the studio by Niall Gardner, former aide to Margaret Thatcher, and Scarlett Maguire, former Labour advisor to many, many ministers. But I'm joined down the line by Tobias Ellwood, former Conservative Member of Parliament and former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, who's been involved himself in one or two Afghanistan controversies over the years. Tobias, I mean, obviously, the original breach of data of itself, just unforgivable.
Yeah, you covered a lot of ground there in your introduction. This is exposing another sad chapter in our long and difficult involvement with Afghanistan. It will trigger very difficult emotions, as you allude to, from the mission creep at the very start, back in 2001, that saw us move from pursuing Al-Qaeda after 9/11 to then nation building a country we did not understand, to then fighting an insurgency, the loss of hundreds of brave service personnel. We then had a panic departure from Kabul and then handed back the country to that very same insurgency. And now it looks like we've been turning our back on the Afghan people, not just the population, the 40 million, but also the individuals that helped us run those operations, mostly in Helmand province. And this data breach itself, the scheme designed to support those Afghans that were supporting us, it does prompt big questions. What scheme will now operate in the future? What are we doing, wider picture, to actually support Afghanistan? There's nothing about a strategy to prevent the country from sliding into an even darker place. You talk about migrants and moving across from Asia to Europe and then London. Okay, it's turning into a vassal state. China is running the place. ISIS-K is now taking over from Al-Qaeda. The economy is collapsing, and there's millions affected by malnutrition. So this breaking news prompts so many searching questions about what we should have done, but also what we need to do in the future to support this country.
Well, you're right, of course, in a way that there are people who acted as interpreters for us who we absolutely deserve to give safe haven to. I wouldn't argue with that for absolutely one moment. But equally, there are some on this list who are serious criminals as well. So it's, there is some and some here with this. But I want to ask you this, Tobias. It is unprecedented for a government to take out a super injunction against multiple media sources to cover up the leak, to cover up the plans for repatriation or patriation to this country for those that wanted it. And the astonishing cost. How the hell is it costing £7 billion? How the hell is it costing £300,000 each to get these people back? Was the government wrong to go down the route of super injunction, or was that level of secrecy necessary in your opinion?
So firstly, on your original point, absolutely right, that the numbers of people that were trying to get onto that list, many of them had no right to be there at all. Yeah. They did not support us in Afghanistan. They were trying a fast track to get out of the country for whatever reasons. And the actual list itself ballooned incredibly because of that. So working out who deserved to come is another challenge in its own right. The second piece is actually, I don't think we have the answers to yet. My initial thoughts were the super injunction was in fact necessary to provide the support for those who genuinely deserve to come here. Their names could have been exposed, eventually given to the Taliban. They could have been persecuted. There could have been reprisals. Therefore, you needed that super injunction in place to allow that to happen. But I'm with you in a more transparent perspective. I want to see more openness. I think there are therefore questions to be asked as to how long the super injunction was allowed to run. Clearly, it's now been released, and therefore there's a determination by the High Court, by the Lord Chamberlain, to say there's no longer a threat to those remaining on the list, or, as your point is very powerfully made, they don't deserve to be on the list in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Tobias, thank you very much indeed, as ever, for joining us live on the programme.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
And that's the point, Scarlett. I thought actually Tobias summed it up pretty well, that there were people on the list that deserved to be there, others that probably didn't. Desperately difficult situation. But for a super injunction to last for 2 years is astonishing.
Yes, but what I gather is actually they were trying to do the best for the Afghans on the list. There's no question that the Taliban are evil, vindictive, they kill people, they torture people. If they found out, that was the worry, that they would find out the people on the list and that they would go to them and go to their families. And so, and I'm sure that, the reason that the injunction was lifted was because the High Court said they're no longer in danger. Yeah. But as long as they were in danger, the judges said, look, I don't know, but I would trust a judge. If I was given the choice of, well, he might be in danger or he might not, I'd say, keep the super injunction up. I mean, I just think that we owe. I mean, we owe the Afghans? We walked into their country, as he said, mission creep like nothing else.
We owe the interpreters. I get that.
Many more.
I remember, funny enough, when we first went into Afghanistan, being shown on the BBC pictures of women in burqas. We were going there to liberate them, and now we allow burqas on our streets. An irony that doesn't escape.
Well, when I was in Afghanistan, there were, and we were obviously there because I was safe.
Yeah.
I was with the British Embassy. There were women in burqas everywhere. I mean, you never saw. We certainly did not get rid of women in burqas. What we did do was we got girls into school. That's what you'd go in the morning and you'd see these little girls walking to school.
And sadly, since Biden's catastrophic withdrawal.
Well, and Trump actually, I think there has to be something, is that Trump did negotiate it with the Taliban. Trump did not talk.
Trump would not have left like that.
That's what you say, but he was never given the chance.
Niall's a very transatlantic thing. Well, you are in many, many ways. Could an American government get a super injunction to cover up something like this?
I don't think so. I think it would be viewed as outrageous, actually. And I think that there's a fundamental lack of transparency here. At the end of the day, the British government has to protect the national security of the British people here. And that is of the primary national interest here. And I'm very concerned that amongst those who are coming from Afghanistan, there may be those individuals linked to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, for example, Taliban fighters who are using this to come over to the United Kingdom. And when you talk about tens of thousands of people coming here, this is a major national security issue, and there has been a fundamental lack of transparency on this. And I think there should be an inquiry into exactly what has happened here.
Well, I wonder, Scarlett, if we've just learned about a super injunction about this, what else aren't we being told?
Absolutely.
Can you see why a story like this makes people lack trust in government?
Yes, and everything. I mean, the thing about super injunctions is we don't even know they exist.
That's right.
Right? So we have no idea. We have absolutely no idea. But all I'm saying is that I do understand. I mean, one is you have to... I know you don't like judges, but in the end, you have to...
I don't like left-wing judges.
Well, there are very few of those. I can promise you that.
Nearly all of them.
Oh, yeah, sure. Look, is that you have to trust somebody. I mean, and actually, this judge said, enough is enough. There's nobody in danger now. We've taken out 18,500. That's enough. And at the beginning, the government obviously went... It was all about Afghan safety rather than, I hope, covering up a terrible, terrible mistake.
No, I mean, as I say, this story is about fundamental incompetence. It's about government cover-up for good or bad. But it's also about increased risk to this country because some of the people coming are bad dudes.
Yep. And, I mean, what I'm hoping is that they're looking at the 18,500. I mean, if you know, do you know that they're sex offenders?
We know there are sex offenders on the list, yes. Yes, we do.
OK, so if you know, then they know, then they should be monitored.
Well, let's hope they do something about it.
I mean, that's what's got to happen.
I just, transparency in government. Under the American system, a Senate committee would uncover all of this, wouldn't it?
I think there would be hearings into exactly what has happened.
Well, there will be now. Of course there will be now.
There does need to be transparency. And if there are criminal elements among those coming in, well, they need to be sent back. They should not be here in the United Kingdom. It's as simple as that.
Shocking story. Now, it's the anniversary of Donald Trump being shot when he was out there campaigning in the American general election. The bullet, if you remember, going through and grazing the bottom of his ear. And BBC correspondent Gary O'Donoghue was actually there in Pennsylvania on that day and managed to get a phone call with the president where he spoke very, very frankly. And we're going to discuss that in a moment. We're going to discuss, is he any closer by threatening effectively China with tariffs? Could peace come any more quickly? Just briefly, back on the Afghanistan story, an MOD spokesman has said the MOD has made it clear that the rejection is nothing to do with the alleged criminal behaviour, as is being reported in some publications. Well, believe what you want to believe from that.